We're back again here in the Randy's Worldwide booth. Right now is Nic from Rockstar Garage. Nic, good to see you.
We were just hanging out a minute ago.
We were, but we were in the dirt.
Yeah, like where we want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But we're here to talk about this truck that's behind us, because this is one of your builds, right?
Yes, it is. It's labor of love back there.
So we had Jerry talk about the front end.
Yes.
So let's talk about, why don't you start with the rear suspension and then just talk about the whole truck in general.
Okay, so this thing's 21 years old, right? It's an old Tundra, and starting to look for parts with all the problems we're having with parts and getting things, right? Trying to get into this build, you're like, what are you going to use? Who still makes stuff for it, right? And so we started going through things. A lot of the people that make the parts for these are smaller shops, right? Like the mom and pop style. And a lot of them are 6-7 months out, backed up on parts orders. So we started digging, and then finally, we knew that we didn't want to go like full race thing with this, but we wanted to build something that was going to be practical, but would still give it all the travel, because obviously Yukon wants to bring it down to like King of the Hammers and things like that. And I have a feeling that Mike is going to be running this thing pretty hard. So we talked to MC and Fab actually here in Vegas, and they were just shutting down their shop and moving to a new building right in the middle of all this. And the guy goes, look, I don't know what I can promise. I'll see what I can do. But what we ended up with is his rear cantilever setup, which is a pretty awesome setup. Takes a 10-inch quadruple bypass shock and gives you 19.5 inches of travel, basically. And made it up to the Yukon Dana 60 in the rear of this thing. It's pretty insane. How much travel you have in this thing. We have a lot to do, fine-tuning it, obviously. Yeah. We need bump stops, things like that. We just wanted to get this thing done for its first rendition, get it here. But from the glass, from Fiberworks, from everyone, just getting this thing done, it was a labor of love, trying to get this thing done, because it's just such an old build. Plus, we don't do a lot of Toyota builds. Yeah. Especially like this Ivan Stewart era truck that you're sitting here looking at. It's, people are looking at this going, that's a weird Tacoma. And I'm like, that's a Tundra. Yeah. And they're like, Tundras are bigger than that. And I'm like, not first gen.
Yeah, not the old ones.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we built this thing, and huge shout out to my guys. Alex was literally killing himself day and night trying to get this thing done. And he's a Jeep guy. So between him and I, there's probably 300 swear words about Toyota guys while we're building this thing. And we're just like, man, like, why do you do this to yourself? It's so hard to work on these things.
The Toyota stuff is there's a lot of extra bolts that you question when you take a Toyota
There
apart.
is, and then you're like, is it metric or is it standard? Because it doesn't seem to want to do either. So it's like a Stetric bolt. So we're doing that, and then it was last Thursday. I was sitting there, we're getting ready to fab our own front bumper, and we kind of knew we were going to do a rear bumper. We talked a little bit, and we're like, let's just leave it off so we can show off that rear axle, put a sticker there that says, ask me why my bumper's missing. Yeah. Which, pulling in here, we had like 10 people ask us. Yeah. But on the front bumper on this thing, we were going to build our own tube bar, and I'm like, let me just try one more place. So I'm sitting there Googling, and I find a shop. It's in California, and I'm like, there's no way in hell this is going to work. But I called them, and it was the guys who were Brute, and I was like, hey, this is a really long shot, but would you happen to have a winch-ready 2000 Tundra bumper sitting on your shelf? And the guy started laughing, and he was like, that's like a 21-year-old truck. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And he goes, actually, we had a guy order 10 of them and cancel one of them. So I do have one sitting here.
No
and I was
way.
like, shut your mouth. And he goes, seriously, we have one sitting here. And I'm like, does it have a hoop? And he goes, no. And I'm like, I want it. Yeah. And he goes, okay, where are you? And I'm like, we're in Southern California. He goes, okay, how would you like me to ship? I'm like, I don't want you to ship it. We'll be there in 4 hours to pick it up. And he goes, is this the SEMA build? And I said, you're 100% right, this is the SEMA build. And then I looked at one of my guys, and he goes, I'm driving to Fresno. And I said, you're driving to Fresno. And then the guy was like, well, you guys are going to be here until 7:30, so I'm probably going to take it to I'll have to take it to my daughter's softball game. You guys just pick it up there. I'm like, sweet, we all love softballs. You got some popcorn and peanuts. There you go. There. So we ended up, doing this deal, getting this thing, and I was like, how much money do you want for it? And he's like, is it cash? I'm like, whatever will make you sell this bumper to me today is what I'm paying you. You want Bitcoin? I'll do whatever you need me to do. And so he goes, I will take some cash. And I said, okay. So he goes, this much? I said, okay, sweet. So we get there, and this is like a horror part of the story. We get there, or Brandon gets there, and he's picking it up and does everything. So I give Brandon the cash, and this is the new generation to a T. Most of us would just put it like in an envelope, right? Yep. And you just go hand the envelope, here you go. Brandon's like, I'm gonna put this in my wallet so I won't lose it. Well, Brandon had other money in there too. But what Brandon didn't do is when he handed the guy the money, and they were in like such a hurry because of the game, Brandon shorted the guy $100. and anyways, and then Brandon like goes back and like realizes like he was at the gas station. He's like, why do I have $100 in my wallet? He's like, this is, oh no. And then he calls again. He's like, oh, the guy's like, don't worry about it, it's fine. And so we actually got the bumper for $100 off, which was pretty cool too.
Discount
so
bumper.
Exactly.
Yep.
But anyway, so we got it back here, got it, made it up, and we were really worried because of the glass from Fiberworks, you know, widening this thing a little bit, that the bumper wasn't gonna line up. So we went and got steel and got like this whole thing ready to go, and we measured it, and it seemed like it was gonna be a couple inches short, which we expected. But when we put it on there and we slide it in, it's like the perfect width, and we're like, did this bumper grow overnight? Like, we don't get it.
Yep.
And we're like, whatever, get that thing on there. The guys that steal it, hook it up. And I will say that I've been nothing but impressed, because there's been a few times now going to SEMA, I think we have 13 cars here, that we didn't have time for powder coat.
Yeah.
And you can't just use regular paint or, you know, be spray paint, because you're gonna see it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the whole frame on this thing, Alex and Brandon hit that with black steel it. The bumper, rockers, everything is all gray steel it, and it looks like powder coat, and you know what I mean? It's and I thought that the whole welding to steel it was like a
No, I've done it. You can just punch right
it was
through
like a
It's
what do you
weird.
call that? Like when it's like an infomercial thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm like, I don't like, you could do it, but is it actually But I know the trick is you have to wait 7 days before, like once you spray, you gotta wait 7 days, and then that's when it crystallizes or whatever, then you can weld to it. But it's pretty insane when you actually weld to it. It does like smoke when you weld to steel it. But other than that, like, it looks good. Like, it doesn't screw with your beads. It doesn't mess with any of your penetration. That surprised me.
Yeah, no, I've done it before. It's surprising. It's good, not even for this, but like on a race car or something, so you can repair it later.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the biggest thing for us.
Yeah, and like especially guys
cut a tube out, put a tube in, because the West Coast guys are lucky they build a tube chassis car. They don't have to worry about it rusting. We have to worry about that. So you want to paint it or powder coat it.
Funny story. I've been on your side of the country for the last 2 years doing a lot of off-roading and events and stuff. I found this out.
Yes.
I feel like I'm more of an East Coaster now than a West Coaster in some ways.
You can bring that raw steel out for like 2 hours.
Yes.
And then it's going to get rusty.
Even spray paint. Like, East Coast is like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, like, that's an appetizer. Get that out of here.
Nope, it just gets underneath it.
Yeah, steel it is the only thing that I've found that, like,
it does work
your
really,
weather
really well.
will not penetrate that steel it.
So what other vehicles you got here? So we talked about this one. What else you got here?
We have the Halo rig that you saw. So that's in the center hall. And then Mickey Thompson hit us up. Well, in that booth with that, we did a 74 Bronco and a 21 Bronco, and they're twins.
Okay.
So we have those in there.
And that's in your booth?
That's in the Rockstar Garage booth.
Okay.
And then you can see there's a giant TV in there. You can see it. And then the other vehicles we have is, we've got kind of all mixed all over the place. We have another 21 Bronco and a new Tacoma in the Mickey Thompson booth, promoting their new Legend tires. Okay. And then we have Gridlock is here. A lot of our ambassadors are right in front of the Mickey Thompson booth. I don't know if you saw Gridlock or not.
I did. I saw it's on the, what are they, 58s?
58s. Like, Mickey Thompson was like, so we've never shown this tire on a vehicle at SEMA. Do you think your Jeep could fit it? I'm like, yeah. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And they were like, yeah, we need you to do that. And I was like, okay, we'll do it. And I posted it, and I thought, like, you know, 24-inch wheels, I thought it was gonna be one of those situations where people are just like, oh man, like he went full dub.
Yeah.
So when I did the initial post, I was like, SEMA's gonna be redonkulous, like making fun of myself. And no one else made fun of me. And I was like, okay.
Because the 24 looks like a regular wheel inside a 58.
Exactly. But it's funny because like you see it and you're just like, that doesn't, like, it doesn't look right, but it doesn't look wrong.
Yeah.
You just don't know what to think about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you see like all the actual wear marks on Gridlock of it being out wheeling, and you're like, oh, this thing gets used, but it has not been used on 58s off-road. So
let's talk a little bit about the Halo build, because that's a vehicle that someone can actually own, right?
Yes. Yeah, so the Halo build, that's kind of like, I'd say, is like our star of the show. We built that thing in the last few months, and that has a new Patriot liner spray on it, axles in it from Yukon, Fox suspension, PRP seats. You know, that thing is just fully loaded. Like, it has everything you can get for Fab 4 on it, basically. And again, like we were talking out at Big Bear, like normally you wouldn't find Fab 4 in either one of our style builds, right? Like, we're more out there, lightweight performance, you know, that kind of thing. But that build, like, you couldn't build that build without that stuff.
No, it suits it.
Yeah.
It looks right.
It does. And then the big, beefy Mickey Thompson and Black Rhino wheels give it that stance to kind of bring in that Fab 4 so it doesn't look so out there and extreme.
Yep.
But, you know, I mean, it's cool. So we have the cans here. Unfortunately, we can't sample, but they are, Pepsi is the convention center drink. So you can go to any place around here and get it, or like 7-Eleven AM PM. Just look for Master Chief on there, and basically you can win that car. There's an 8-digit code on the tab. Enter that. Go to the Rockstar. I think it's halo.rockstarenergy.com, and you can go there and enter. And it's like a $250,000 Jeep that you can win. And you drove it,
and you can drive it down the road.
Yeah, it actually runs.
So there you go. If you want to see the Jeep that is Halo inspired, go to Center Hall, Rockstar Performance Garage booth, and then you can get yourself a Rockstar Energy drink can.
Yeah.
Enter that code, win it. You can drive it home.
Definitely.
Not from here, but eventually.
Correct. I mean, if you drove it home from here, I wouldn't have to haul it home, so I wouldn't be opposed to that. So, well, awesome. Well, thanks for having us.
Anytime. Always good seeing you, Nick.